What's up, everybody? Chris coming to you from Salty Island. And some of you might have been wondering, are we alive? What have we been up to these past few months? In all honesty, we did take a bit of a break, kind of slowed down on the Games Workshop, both on the Age of Sigmar and the 40k side. We did a whole lot of that. Wanted to try and change it up a little bit, but we haven't been doing nothing. As you can see here, we found this really awesome game that we want to go ahead and give a shout out to, Marvel Crisis Protocol. A lot of you already know about this game, but for those of you who do not, it's pretty much a superhero game based on the Marvel property. The really cool thing about it is the creators of the game have stated that Marvel Crisis Protocol is its own Marvel universe. And what they mean by that is it allows them to draw from artwork and character designs from all across the Marvel properties, from the comic books, from the animated series, from the Disney movies. So you get all sorts of things. As you see here, the miniatures are really highly detailed. They're very nice. And in fact, they are 40 millimeter. So they are bigger than your average Games Workshop figure. Obviously, the very first miniature that I had to paint up was my man Thanos. The art version that you see here is from the comic books. But I have seen some people paint him up in the MCU version. Obviously, you just change the sleeves, you paint skin tone on it, and kind of give him a little bit of different details. He's got the Infinity Gauntlet. Obviously, he's Thanos. I didn't paint him with the Infinity Gems just yet, but I will be going and getting to that. I wanted to say that for anybody out there who is looking for an alternate game to play from Games Workshop, or you're looking for maybe like a first miniature game, this game is actually fantastic. The price on the miniatures is pretty comparable to Games Workshop, but you don't need nearly as many miniatures to play the game. And in fact, there's a pretty big line of options available to you, from the Avengers, you got the X-Men, you got the Midnight Suns, you have the Sinister Six, or like the enemies of Spider-Man, you got the Spider-Verse if you like Into the Spider-Verse. Obviously, there's Black Order with Thanos, there is Hydra, there is S.H.I.E.L.D. The list kind of keeps going on. If you're a fan of comic books, chances are one of your favorite characters is already in there. And if not, they have been supporting this game for a few years now with pretty regular releases, with new characters continuing to come out. So there's a lot for people out there. And obviously, once I got Thanos painted up, you can see here that I went ahead and painted up Proxima. Proxima recognizable from the MCU. I believe that this version is similar to her MCU version. No, her skin tone is different. So this is the comic book version. She's got the blue skin here. MCU version, you has a gray skin, but you can obviously paint it up in the MCU version if you'd like. Another nice thing that I wanted to talk about with the Marvel Crisis Protocol figures is the way that you paint them. And because they're comic books, you can give them these really extreme highlights and these really bright, vibrant colors contrasted by these extremely dark shadows. And you can see that it actually comes out really nice. For people who are bad at lighting, if you've ever picked up a comic book, you'll know that comic books don't give two shits about lighting themselves. They pretty much have highlights wherever they think is cool and shadows wherever they think is cool. It doesn't even need to make sense. That's just how comic books roll. So you also see here, obviously, if you have Proxima, you have to have Corvus. Interestingly, some of the boxes come in sets of two. So Thanos was a standalone, but he had a special kind of terrain piece that came with him, a big throne. Proxima came with Corvus in a 2-in-1 box. I believe the Proxima Corvus box was 40. I think it's 40 for these two smaller characters. Thanos himself, I think, was 40 or 50. If you are a Games Workshop player, that price seems pretty reasonable to you. If you're not a Games Workshop player, this might seem steep. With that said, for example, Thanos, Proxima, and Corvus is really all that you need to play the game. It gives you 3 models that are of the Black Order faction, and that's it. The Thanos and Corvus are pretty point cost, as you can imagine. Thanos himself can get really expensive because you can also give him the Infinity Gems, which makes his playability costs go up even more. But with that said, it doesn't take a whole lot of miniatures to play this game. Even if you play a bunch of smaller heroes, like you went with like Daredevil and Punisher and those maybe not cosmic level heroes, you probably only need, I think, 5 or 6 miniatures tops. You could easily get in under $100 for an entire faction. I would recommend collecting your favorite faction, like if you just want to play Avengers or if you want to play X-Men. But you don't have to, is the other really nice thing. You don't have to play a solo faction. And in fact, you can mix and match factions. You get the faction bonus. Some of the characters have a faction leader ability, like for example, Storm and Cyclops are allowed to lead an X-Men team. And if you have the majority of your force have the X-Men keyword and you've got Storm or Cyclops leading them, then each of those, the Storm and Cyclops respectively, has a special ability to kind of represent them leading the X-Men. Same with Thanos. Thanos leads the Black Order, so when I play Thanos, Corvus, and Proxima, Thanos unlocks an additional small bonus. It's a very small bonus, but it is noticeable on some of the people. And it's just a nice way of rewarding you for sticking in faction. But let's say you didn't want to play that. Say you wanted to play like all chunky boys. So like you want Thanos, the Hulk, and Juggernaut. Right? You could play Team Chunky Boys and it's just as functional. And speaking of Juggernaut, so I wanted to expand my collection a little bit outside of just Black Order. And so I started to pick up some of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. As you know, that's led by Magneto. Part of Brotherhood is my man Juggernaut here. And with this one, I tried painting it a little bit different, as you can see. The paint job on it, I tried to go with like more that, like there was a comic book piece that's if you Google Juggernaut, I'm sure it'll come up towards the top where Juggernaut has like an extreme highlight and an extreme shadow. I kind of gave it a, like one side of him has like these real dark shadows on it. The other side has really bright lights and highlights on it. And it's trying to like represent more that comic book, that extreme shadowing style. I might need to go a little darker on the shadows on it. I do have a lot of lights here, like studio lights going, which is brightening it up quite a bit. But you can paint it like in different ways, different techniques. I just used it with an airbrush. I painted the model. I painted one side. I took some lead belcher. Nope, Nuln oil. I took Nuln oil, shot Nuln oil on one side of the model, and then I extreme highlighted the other side of the model, spraying contrast red over Wraithbone, I believe is what I did on this one. So Wraithbone primer, contrast red, extremely thinned out so that you get a really bright, vibrant, almost translucent kind of a red. Then on the other side with a Nuln oil to give you that extreme shadow side. And that's pretty much it. These models are great detail, paint up extremely quickly. And like I said, sometimes you just want to play Team Chunky Boys. So you got Thanos, got Juggernaut, and Salty Shy has also got a Hulk. So, you know, sometimes we just need to have big boy fight. And since I went ahead and got Juggernaut, so I also went and picked up Quicksilver. As you can see, this is his, I think it's like this Golden Age version of Quicksilver. Not the MCU version. And so he's painted up in that very same way. And this one, so one thing about painting it in certain styles like this, I painted this particular model so it looks good from a very specific angle. It's the angle that you guys are looking at it right now. It's, you see he's got the bright blue colors. He's got that extreme black outline around him in a very comic book-esque style of paint. And I will actually just kind of grab the model and move it around so you guys can see. So as you can see here, as you rotate the model, how I did it was he has extreme shadows on all around him to kind of give you that very dark kind of a look. Oops. You can kind of see his chest piece detail a little bit. There you go. You can kind of get like a view of it. So like he looks good from some angles. And then as he kind of rotates around, you can kind of see where I went with those extreme shadows on the other side of him. Doesn't look quite as good, but there's a range from where I painted it where I really like the way the model looks. And that was done intentionally. I wanted that very comic book-esque, bold black lines around the bright colors to kind of make it really pop and stand out on the tabletop. And really, when you're playing the game, like, you know, it's Quicksilver, so it's more of a display piece at that point. And really, this is actually now more than you need to play the game, because you can, like I said, as long as the majority of your faction of your force is one faction. So I've got 3 of Black Order, 2 of Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. This would still count as Black Order. And you can narratively think of it like if you've ever seen comic books, you know that just anybody and everybody teams up when you hate on someone else enough. So you can have like the Brotherhood and Thanos probably would team up against the X-Men, or maybe against Galactus or against the Sentinels. Hint, hint, Sentinels are coming out soon if you're interested. Obviously, I also picked up Magneto, so I can play Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I also, with Quicksilver, obviously you're going to get a 2-pack, so you got Scarlet Witch as well. Scarlet Witch has her. It is not the 80s classic Scarlet Witch. It's more of the 90s style of Scarlet Witch. For those of you who are more familiar with the MCU, it's the Scarlet Witch from the Multiverse of Madness movie, where she has the red outfit and the red crown. It's that version of Scarlet Witch is what you're getting. So it's really nice. You can paint it up, obviously, in either way and get a great looking model on that. And that's it. Like, that's one of the many things that we have currently been up to here at Salty Island. We're going to be getting into Marvel Crisis Protocol a lot more. Salty Shy and I have been playing a metric ton of this game, and I can't speak enough good things about it. A couple of really cool things that I also want to shout out. One, if you have a 3D printer, you can easily get superhero 3D models and print them out. And you can print out models that they don't even have rules for yet, because they're superheroes. You are a smart human being, right? You can figure out how to like proxy one model for another one. For example, Jean Grey is in the game right now, but if you wanted to print out Dark Phoenix, you can probably figure out that you can use Jean to proxy up Dark Phoenix. You could also do things like there's a Mr. Sinister model. That's a really fun model to use. We proxy, we have a 3D printed Apocalypse that we feel the rules are pretty fun for. There's also a Dormammu that you could probably proxy, use his rules to proxy in for Apocalypse. So as you can see, like with a little bit of creativity, you know what kind of superheroes are roughly on par and have similar power sets available to each other. By all means, if you've got a 3D printer, print up these extra characters and paint them up. You can just play your favorite superheroes. It's a really just a fun game, and a lot of people who are playing it just like comic books. It's just a comic book lovers game, and there's people out there who also love comic books. You don't need a lot of terrain. It's played on a 3x3 table, and it's, I would say, a normal game lasts anywhere from half an hour to maybe an hour if you're playing on the larger side of the games. But it is not a long game by any means. Also, as you see, you kind of get a great sense of scale. Juggernaut is big. He is a big boy. Like, Juggernaut is a big boy. He's bigger than Thanos, who is bigger than Quicksilver. And so I feel like they do a great job representing the size of the models and the scale on the tabletop. Dormammu is obviously even bigger than this. They're about to release Sentinels that will probably they've shown the renders. I don't think they've seen it next to a model yet, but I expect them to be definitely bigger than all of these. They're the Sentinels, and so that's really fun. Other shout-outs that I want to do that this game is fantastic about is that you can play fan-made scenarios, and what the fan-made scenarios do is it's either one-player scenarios or it's multiple players against an auto-playing NPC kind of a character. There's been a lot of games that have done this recently, things like the Fallout game, where basically you play against a list of pre-prescribed actions and you try to complete a scenario. And obviously, in very comic book fashion, these are extremely those epic encounters. For example, there's fans that have made the Infinity Ultron scenario from the What If series. So you take Ultron, basically jack him up on 6 Infinity Stones, and you and maybe some of your friends bring together a team and you try to stop Infinity Ultron. There's also things like World War Hulk. There is the Unstoppable Colossus, where that's the story for, if you don't know, where Colossus gets his hands on the gem that gives Juggernaut his power. And so now you got all the power of Colossus multiplied by all the power of Juggernaut. And he's kind of going berserk, and it's your job to stop him. The Marvel Crisis Protocol game team themselves also has scenarios where you play a epic tier version of a character against another player, and this one is when it's the actual company making these, they do it where one person is playing the epic encounter. For example, there's an epic Thanos where he has all 6 Infinity Stones, and you play against him with a team. One person's playing Thanos with the stones. The other person is playing a team against epic Thanos. There's like the Hulkbuster. There is a whole bunch of other ones. I know there's one for like Crossbones is a fan one. And then pretty much what happens is anytime like Marvel does a major event, there's going to be a scenario for it. So I completely assume when the Sentinels come out, there's going to be an epic tier scenario where, you know, you bring maybe like all of the X-Men and you take on the Sentinels, whatever it might be. For those of you old school, like maybe like you got to go save Jubilee's dumbass or something. You know what I'm talking about. So this is one of the probably like half dozen things that we've been up to over the past month, but I definitely wanted to go ahead, share with you some miniatures that I painted up. I cannot express how much I enjoy painting these miniatures versus a 40K miniature. Actually, give me a second here. I'll go grab one. All right, there we go. Just to give everyone scale, I went ahead and got a mini marine. This is a Mark III from Project Horus Heresy, which I will be making a video about that you'll be seeing probably coming out later on this month, maybe. But yes, that is a mini marine on a 32mm base next to Thanos, Corvus, Juggernaut. And you can see that they're big. They're great miniatures, great detail, very easy to paint up. And like I said, extremely fun because you can paint them in this crazy comic book style. And there's so much inspiration to draw from because comic books are such an art medium that you can paint whatever version you want, whether you want MCU Thanos, whether you want comic book Thanos. If you want to do whack-ass Golden Age fucking Thanos that has the bright yellow like spandex action, you can do it. Like, just knock yourself out. It's whatever you want to express. Like I like the extreme highlight of the more modern, maybe like that 2000 style art that was really popular. Salty Shy, on the other hand, big fan of X-Men 97 and the old X-Men cartoon. He's building up all the X-Men and he's painting them basically to look like the animation series where they're the bright colors, the big hard lines on all their designs. It's fantastic. So keep an eye out. We'll be doing more videos about Marvel Crisis Protocol. We'll be bringing you some games. Most likely we'll be trying out a lot of those epic encounters where, Salty Shy and I will each bring a team and we're going to go ahead and take on the big bad guy and you'll get to watch us play. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this. It's a fun game to watch. It's a fun game to play. And we'll talk a little bit more about like the mechanicals and the nitty gritty of it in a future video. But for now, thank you guys, everyone, for checking this video out. And stay tuned. I will be releasing more videos for what I've been up to the past few months. And just as a quick teaser here, I'm gonna just like lift the camera up real quick. I hope it doesn't like unfocus the camera, but it'll give you like a little hint as to what I've been up to here. I'm gonna just pan this camera back, and you can see there's a giant city back there. So we'll talk a little bit about that. For those of you who have followed the channel from like its beginning days, you might recognize some of that terrain from an old project that we did. I'm not going to talk more about it right now. It'll be in a future video. Thank you everybody for watching this video. Please, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit the like button or even subscribe. We'll appreciate that very, very much. We haven't abandoned Games Workshop products for all of the fans that joined our channel during our Games Workshop obsession. We're not obsessed with Games Workshop. We didn't sell any of the nonsense that we have. In fact, we have bought more Games Workshop in the meantime. So there will be more Games Workshop content coming, but just in the meantime, there's lots of other games out there, and we want to bring you just all of the hobby love that we have. So thank you, everyone, once again. We really appreciate you all. Please keep hobbying, and most importantly, peace out.